Hey guys, so this is your trainer Anirudh Chhillar. So we are back with one more video of OSPF. I hope you are learning in a good way and a good pace. So let's go for the next video.
So now, because this area 2 is working as NSSA, not so stable area. So what I said to you that in NSSA, if you perform redistribution, then it will generate type 7 LSA. So let's move on R8 now and let's check the running config of OSPF. So of course we have not redistributed this RIP into OSPF yet. So let's redistribute RIP into OSPF. So say redistribute RIP and then subnets. In same manner, I'll move on R11. Router OSPF 1, redistribute EICRP 100 subnets metric type 1 and tag is what? 11. That's fine, right? So now you will see that type 5 LSS will not be allowed in this area 2 now. It means from R7 and R8 it will not be possible for you guys to communicate with 120's network. Let's move on R7 because type 5 LSS will not be allowed, right? So like here you perform redistribution on R11. So because R11 is generating type 5 LSS, these type 5 LSS will not be allowed in area 2. So if you move on R7 now and if you say show IP route 120.1.0, so definitely you are not gonna to see that. Even there will not be any route like default route, right? So there is no default route, there is no 120's route, right? So if you want to trace route 120.1.1, of course it is not possible for you to reach it now because either a specific route or default route, none of them is available in the routing table of R7 and R8 because they are completely participating in area 2 only. So I hope you people have understood it now, right? Fine. But the thing is, like, we perform redistribution on R8 as well. So because we performed redistribution on R8, so that it will generate now type 7 LSA and it will advertise those type 7 LSAs in the direction of R6, R7 and then further R5. Then because type 7 LSAs cannot be understandable for standard areas. So for that purpose now ABRs will be responsible to you to translate your type 7 LSAs back into type 5 LSAs. So this time because R5 and R6 both of them are working as an ABR and both of them have capability to translate your type 7 LSAs back into type 5 LSAs. I hope that you people are getting a point, right? Yes. So because you cannot have you cannot have more than one translator in a single area. So this time because you are having two different ABRs available here in this area 2, R5 and R6, and both of them have capability to work as a translator, but because only one router can work as a translator, only one ABR can work as a translator at a time. That's why there will be an election of translator. So either R5 or R6 will be responsible to translate your type 7 LSAs back into type 5 LSAs. Any problem? Sure. So of course higher router ID will be preferred, right? I mean an ABR with having higher router ID will always be preferred. So this time R6 will be responsible to translate your type 7 LSAs back into type 5 LSAs. Fine. So I hope that all of you understand all these things now, right? So those type 5 LSAs will get entered into the database table of area 0, area 1 and finally area 3. That is why here on R11 you can find those 130's prefixes, right? So IP route 130.1.0, you see, as external type 2. That is why metric is just 20 here. So you do one thing, move on R8 back, and here you can also say metric type is what? 1. So once you will configure here metric type 1, within this area 2 they will be you will see them as N1 and SSA type 1. As you can move on R7 and you can see show IP route 130.1.0, so you will see that they are coming as an SSA type 1. And also if now ABR translate them into type 5 LSS, so they will also be like E1. So if you move on R11 now and if you see the same route, it will show you now external type 1. So I hope you people are getting this point, have understood all these things, right? So in this way you can change their metric type. So again remember that metric type can be changed only on actual originator. Like here only on R8 you cannot change, you cannot modify their metric type at R6. If it was N2, then during translation they will be converted as E2. If it was N1, then automatically it will be converted as E1, right? It cannot happen like you are I mean in an SSA they are coming as an SSA external type 2, and after converting them into type 5 they are going as E1. No, it's not possible, right? So N1 will always be translated back into E1, or N2 will always get translated back into E2. Have you understood it now? Tell me. Fine. Okay. Now, because R7 and R8, are you getting my point? R7 and R8, they cannot reach these 120s prefixes because type 5 LSAs are not allowed in area 2 now, because area 2 is configured as an SSA, and also by default it is not going to inject any default route. This is the property of an SSA, but we can force our ABRs to inject a default route into an SSA after filtering type 5 and 4 LSA. Are you getting my point or not? So remember, you cannot translate type 5 LSAs back into type 7, and if it is doing so, are you getting my point? If it is possible for ABRs to translate type 5 LSAs back to type 7, then there will not be any advantage of configuring this area 2 as an SSA, because all of them will again get entered into an SSA in the form of type 7, and again they will consume too much memory to store your database table as well as routing table, because here we are assuming that 500 prefixes have been redistributed from EIGRP into OSPF. Are you getting my point or not? So in this now because it is not possible, and of course it should have not been possible, and it is not. That's good. But the problem is R7 and R8 cannot communicate with 120s prefixes, right? So do one thing, move on R5, and here, because you said area 2 and SSA, along with it say default information originate. Now because you are manually instructing to this router to inject a default route externally, that is why this time this default route will go as redistributed route, because this time you are forcing your router to inject this default route into the database table of OSPF. That is why, are you getting my point or not? That is why it will go in the form of external LSA. And now because type 5 LSAs are not allowed in an SSA, so definitely this default route information will go in this area as, I mean, in the form of type 7 LSA. In same manner, I'll do the configuration on R6 as well, so that we can have redundancy. So area 2 and SSA was already configured, default information originate, you can configure it now. Now you do one thing, move back on R7. Previously it was not having, I mean, like 120 prefix. Of course this time it can reach C, because it has a default route. However, still it does not have this 120's prefix individually, but in place of them it is having now default route, as you can see here. Gateway of last resort, this is default route as N2 by default, right? It is coming as N2. Show IP OSPF database, you can also check its database table too, and you will find that this default route will be available in the form of type 7 LSA generated by R5 as well as R6. Now if you want to change its metric type, you can do one thing. Along with this command, you can also define your metric. You can make it in same manner, move on R6, and then you can also define its metric type as 1. Now again you can move on R7, and this time you will see that this route will come as N1, not as N2. By default it was coming as N2, but this time it will come as N1. So I hope that you people have understood this concept now. So remember that by default an SSA, I mean in an SSA not so stable area, by default ABRs will not inject a default route after filtering type 4 and type 5 LSAs, but we can force our ABRs to inject a default route into not so stubby area after filtering type 4 and type 5 LSS. So I hope that you guys have understood my point here. Fine. So now you do one thing, also perform mutual redistribution on R11 like OSPF into EICRP, so that we can successfully trace route it from anywhere, right? So router EICRP 100, say redistribute OSPF 1 metric 1544 0 245 1 and 15 100. Then you do one thing, move on R8 router OSPF router rib, and then say redistribute OSPF 1 metric is just 1. So now you do one thing, you can also have the console of R12, and we can also take the console of R13 as well. So from R12 you must be able to communicate with R13, sorry, trace route 130.1. So there is no problem now, right? So because we have also redistributed this OSPF back into RIP. So if you take console of R13, you can check its routing table as well. So it is also receiving that default route coming from OSPF, because we have redistributed OSPF into RIP. That is why this default route is coming here. And with the help of this default route only, if you trace route from here 120.1.1, because it will raise this 120's prefix with the help of this default route only. See, any problem? Tell me. So I hope that you people have understood it, that how can we configure this NSSA. Now the thing is, let's say that is still in area 2 you are having too many LSAs available inside its database table, which are actually summary LSAs, and also too many inter-area prefixes, inter-area routes available inside its own routing table. So still you are having some problems available in area 2. Have you got my point? So then finally it was necessary to configure this area 2 as a totally NSSA. Now you know very well that what are the properties of totally NSSA. See, if you talk about the totally NSSA now, the very first thing is will not allow type 3 second what will inject default route automatically, you can say dynamically, and it will be done by ABR. Third, if we redistribute, I mean all remaining things will remain same. All remaining things will remain same. Like in totally NSSA also, if you perform any type of redistribution, it will generate type 7 LSA, and type 7 LSAs will be allowed in NSSA. But again, standard areas cannot understand type 7 LSAs, so again it will be required to translate your type 7 LSAs back into type 5 LSA, and again that task can be performed by an ABR only, and ABRs will be responsible to translate your type 7 LSAs back into type 5 LSAs. So I hope you people have understood my point. I mean all these things. Tell me, So the only difference that will create here, that we will not require to inject default route statically here inside an SSA. The second thing, it will also start to filter type 3 LSA as well. I mean inter area prefixes as well. So let's do one thing, move on R5 and remove this command from here and then say area 2 is an SSA and then no summary. In same manner, I will move on R6, go there and then say area 2 and SSA and then no summary. So you will require to add this keyword no summary only on ABRs, because only ABRs are responsible to inject inter area prefixes from one area to another area, or you can say summary LSS from one area to another area. So do show run pipe section router OSPF. I hope you people can understand this configuration of OSPF very easily. See, so there is no default information originate command, is there? No. I have removed that command from here now. So you can also move on R5 and you can check its configuration as well. Fine. Now let's move on R7. Let's check its database. On R7, is it having any summary LSA? Yeah, it is having, but only for default route generated by R5 and R6 itself, but it does not have any other summary LSA available here, right? So this time, see, default route information is coming in form of type 3 LSA, not in form of type 7 LSA, because this time we have not forced our routers or ABRs to inject a default route. This time it is automatically generating it, right? We didn't configure that default information originate command, because whenever you will configure default information originate command, it means that you are redistributing a default route into OSPF database. So either it will create type 5 LSA or type 7 LSA. It will be depending on area type. If you are using standard area, then it will generate type 5 LSA. If you are using NSSA, then it will generate type 7 LSA. Fine. But this time, because we didn't configure the default information originate command, it have automatically created this default route. It have automatically injected this default route in the database of area 2 after filtering type 3, type 4 and type 5 LSA. That is why here you cannot find any type 3, 4 and 5 LSA. But still, from R5, if you are on a trace route 120.1.1, you can trace route very easily. If you are on a trace route like 11.11.11, which is part of OSPF itself, you can do it very easily. If you are on a trace route 1.1.1, then you can also easily trace route this 1.1.1.1 as well. However, it does not have those routes available inside its routing table, but in place of them, it is having default route. With the help of this default route, R7 and R8, they can reach R5 and R6, and then finally R5 and R6 are still having all routes available inside their routing table, because R5 and R6 are also participating in area 0 as well as in area 1. Piyush, any problem? Tell me. So remaining things are remain same. The only difference is in an SSA and totally an SSA, that very first thing, it will filter, I mean in an SSA it was filtering only type 4 and type 5 LSAs, whereas totally an SSA will filter type 3, type 4 and type 5, all of them. In case of an SSA, it was required to inject a default route manually, but here in totally an SSA, ABRs will inject default route in your totally an SSA, I mean in your NSSA not so stubby area automatically.
Okay, so that's the end of today's video. So I hope you learned something new today. We'll be coming with few more videos of OSPF, guys. See you later. Thank you.